Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
Hello and welcome to Center Stage. This is our inaugural episode here at Blended Audio. I'm Alistair King-Daniels, and with me, as always, is
Peter Bates, and I'm very glad to be here in this wonderful studio with you, Alistair. And we're going to be diving straight into introducing ourselves for our audience and introducing our podcast. So why don't you go straight ahead?
Okay, well, as I've already said, my name is Alistair King-Daniels. I am a theatre buff. I love theatre, I love film. I studied at Rhodes University in Grahamstown, now called Makanda. When I came back, I started doing lots of acting work. I started writing some things. I write some screenplays that have not seen the light of day, but some other stage plays which have and been produced, and we've had a great time doing that. Peter was with me on one of those journeys on the stage, which I'm sure he'll talk about in a minute. I'm here producing this podcast because it's a passion project of mine, and I want more of these sort of podcasts to be here in South Africa. But we'll talk more about that later. Peter.
Yeah, my name's Peter Bates. I don't have any formal training in drama, but I have plenty of experience. I've worked with Alistair a couple of times on a few of his plays. I have shared the stage with him. I have performed in a couple of other things, and looking forward to our new project, Alistair, which is as yet untitled and as yet unnamed, but which we are working on and hopefully will be bearing fruit very soon.
And now you've spoken about it, you have to do it.
And now I've committed us. There's nothing we can do now. But yeah, I'm really glad that we are here doing Center Stage. Basically, the idea of it is just to get a voice to the people of Cape Town who are involved in theatre, the actors, the writers, because, we've talked about it before, Alistair. I think in Cape Town, the theatre scene, I think the word we used is fractured, is that it's rich and there's a lot going on and a lot of people involved, but whether those people know about each other or not is the question. And that's what I think we're trying to solve here with Centered Stage, is trying to form connections, get people knowing about each other, what's on, who's who, what's happening, and basically, just have some people on and talk about the struggles and the joys, the challenges and the successes of being a creative, being an actor, being a writer in Cape Town.
Yeah, and to talk about it honestly, because a lot of people going into the industry from out of high school, they don't sort of know what it's like in the industry. And I want this podcast to be sort of the thing that they go to find out, I see there's an interview with this director. Let's see what they have to say about being a up-and-coming director or this actor or this whatever.
Yeah. Share a bit of the knowledge, share a bit of the experience, and generally enrich everyone, through that.
Yes.
So I think, we have I think I've said it before, we have a very big scene, a theatre landscape here in Cape Town. And to get those people speaking to each other, to give them a platform, do a bit of promotion as well for people's projects and stuff. So I'm really hoping that Center Stage will become the go-to place, to see what's happening, to find out what's on.
What's on in Cape Town.
Yeah, in Cape Town theatre.
Eventually South Africa.
Eventually in South Africa as well. Yeah, because I think we have South African, Cape Townians, we have a lot to offer, and South Africans, we have a lot to offer to each other and to the world as a whole. We have a unique culture, unique outlook on life, which I don't think is celebrated in popular culture very much. And I think that's, in fact, what we're going to talk about in a little while, is the impact that South Africans have had on international culture. And it can't just be a one-way street of us becoming acculturated to, Western American ways of doing things and movies and TV and acting and stuff. It's got to be a two-way street, and I think it's time for South Africans and Africans
for that.
Yeah, it has, and it's that's the time. Africa's coming into its own, and South Africa is especially. And we're going to look at some South African actors and writers and authors who have made an impact on the rest of the world.
Yeah, so the first one, I think we should go with one that everyone knows about, and just chat about his impact on the industry in South Africa and in the world. And that is the amazing John Carney, who I think I first heard about, I don't know about you, but I first heard about in high school when we did his play, Nothing But the Truth. And then we knew that he wrote the play, about the Truth Commission and everything like that. And then we watched the movie, and then I saw that he was acting in it as well. He's an actor. And then I started learning about his past as an actor in South Africa, and just the fact that he's a household name. Everyone knows John Carney, and in the recent years, I've noticed that he's starting to become more involved in sort of international productions, like, for instance, Black Panther.
Yeah, I think John Carney is, I mean, like you said, he's a household name in South Africa. The transformative power of his works has been incredible. The stories that he's brought, to the people are huge and wonderful things. And it's interesting to see him in a big international movie in Black Panther. That was fascinating. And just to see the reaction of social media, of American social media, to having an actual like a lot of questions like, what language are these people speaking? Is this a real language? Because we live in an age. If you look at some of these big movies,
they make up a language.
Yeah, like constructed languages, right? Like Avatar had that strange constructed language, and then there's this language, Dothraki, exactly. Now, I'm not trying to put an actual human language on the level with these fictional languages at all. But it's interesting to see how the response has been to those fictional languages, and then hearing a new language that you've never heard before in your life, and thinking, wow, this is an incredible thing. And having that brought to people,
be real. Yeah.
And it's, that's real. That's an authentic piece of a person's life and a person's existence that is now actually receiving attention, and receiving appreciation and acclaim. I thought that was fascinating. And so to see John Carney and the other actors that were, in that movie, I think that's a fascinating infiltration of a certain element of African culture into the wider world, into the wider Western culture. Now, whether it's treated authentically or treated as a novelty, I'm sure we can debate. But to have it there and to have that...
At least it's there.
At least as I don't know. But, that it is there and it is being seen and appreciated as something that is real, and the stories that these people have, I think it's an interesting idea, interesting concept.
Yes. So John Carney was like the big one that I wanted to chat about. And the reason why we're doing this, guys, is because part of what this podcast is all about is to give a sense of hope. Because a lot of people that I've met in my life, and you tell them that you're an actor or you want to go into acting or theater or any form of the industry, and they say it's difficult, and it is. It's really difficult. But they say it in such a way that they sort of almost downgrade it in a sense, like, oh, you'll never make it. You'll never make a living. Oh, that's nice, dear. Well done. And I want this podcast to sort of give the truth about it. It's difficult, but I wanted us to inspire people, to inspire them to go to extra lengths, to, maybe move somewhere and start living in that city and pursue acting like full-time or directing or whatever, instead of just having it as like a side thing that a lot of people think that it should be. So having said that, I was just watching, I know you don't watch The Flash.
No.
But I was recently watching The Flash, and at first I didn't even realize, but there's a main, season 4, spoilers maybe, I don't know. There's a main villain, 2 main villains, but she's sort of more main because she's in all the episodes. And Sean actually came past and he was like, is that Kim Engelbrecht? And I was like, I don't know who that is. Who's that? And he was like, no, she's a South African actress. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, there's a South African actress. I didn't know of her before, but immediately I just felt like gravitated towards it. Oh, it's a South African on like a famous TV series in America. And I thought it was so good. She's like the main villain, sort of. And her co-star, the other main villain, is also South African. I found out. Neil Sandilands. Sandilands? Do you know him?
I don't know. I know of him. I don't know him.
You don't know him personally.
Yeah. No, that's, it's fascinating to see a South African actor taking to, an international role like that and having that kind of impact. And yeah, it is hard, and people have made it, if that is your definition of making it. I mean, there's many ways to make it, and that is definitely one of them, and that's a great thing, I think.
But also, I bring it up in this. Also, I bring them up in another sense. Is in the sense of what we were just talking about bringing our culture and our experiences to the wider world. Because in the series, they don't pretend like these two characters are from London or wherever. They say they're from South Africa. They grew up in Cape Town, and so like it's just like little things like that that we're being put on the map. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, you see, it's interesting. I was actually watching my guilty pleasure. I was watching an episode of Suits. And in one of the episodes, I don't know, it's just such a stereotype. It's just so stereotypical and just like, this whole like Africa is one country, that whole stupid backwards ignorant mindset. Anyway, so there's this character there who is Ugandan, and he like is this caricatured African warlord, and he's now brought to the United States to testify in a court case or whatever the case is. And then like the one character, they're giving a brief background of him, and they're like, he was in Uganda, and then he went to study at the University of Cape Town, and then that's like it, okay? And then they have a South African character there, and the South African character, now I know a South African accent is incredibly difficult to do because it's very flat, okay? Or at least the Cape Townian accent in Joburg is different. It's difficult because it's flat. So they've got this guy, and he's obviously American trying to do a South African accent, and it just sounds like
bad.
It sounds
Cringy.
awful. It just sounds terrible, right? Because it's like nobody in our country speaks like that. Okay. What would it be really hard to find? I mean, it was like a bit part, like a tiny little role.
Yeah,
would it be difficult to find an actual South African to do that? I don't think so.
There's a lot
so
of
why not?
South
right?
Africans who like go to like LA or New York or wherever.
Exactly. There's people in
Like
there.
they're
So why not just use someone, you know? So it's an interesting idea to see how Africa and South Africa is depicted. I know in that movie from a couple of years ago, remember the world was supposed to end in 2012. 7 years later, I'm still waiting. And then they were saying, we're going to go off, and the only place in the world that survived is
Drakensberg.
the Drakensberg.
The Drakensberg.
Because Drakensberg, right? So they fly to South Africa. So, it's like we're still a very bit part, a very kind of sidelined idea, which is very unfortunate, because I think South Africa and Africa has a lot to offer to the world, right?
But I think it's started like I had never seen South African actors in big movies before. Now I'm starting to see them.
Yeah, it's
like,
happening. It's definitely
everywhere,
happening.
and it's so. I mean, we're just talking about actors here, but I mean, there's also directors and screenwriters and all of that that are successful.
Was that
and
movie about the aliens? District 9, wasn't it?
Oh, Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah, I mean, he's big, right?
He's big. He does really good. And what's nice about his is he's South African, and he sets his he sets his movies in South Africa.
South Africa, yeah, exactly.
And he does. We were talking about like a while ago. We were talking about sci-fi movies, and we didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you're
about
right. We're gonna
because we sort of think of that as like a Hollywood movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in many ways it's definitely. You see, this is the thing. So it's like, are South Africans bringing a South African or African perspective, or are we aping or imitating the Hollywood Western perspective or ways of doing things? Okay, so is there something authentic
But is there a
about
different
it?
way of doing a film?
Well, I don't know. It's different values and different ideas. Okay, and different things are, like the South African film industry is tiny. Like if you look at, if you think, for example, of Bollywood, it's called Bollywood, for goodness sakes, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the tropes and the ideas have been appropriated and made, but in the same way changed, not just necessarily imitated, right? And I want to see that development here in South Africa of
So you want
techniques and tropes and ideas that are inherently no, but yes, but not in the way that it is an imitation of something else, right? It's just like it's uniquely South African. It's understandable on a basic cultural level by South Africans, right?
You get like what's growing in Nigeria is Nollywood, I think. I've heard, but I've heard
they
that
give it a ridiculous name. But if you look at the movies and you look at the stuff coming out there, it is authentically and distinctly You know, it's not an imitation or an aping, which is fantastic. And I watched this movie a couple of years ago, and I actually I completely forgot the title, unfortunately. It wasn't a very, the content was a bit not tasteful. Anyway, but it told a story about people. And I mean, obviously, that's where art really finds its power, is telling the story about people. But it told its story about African people, and it told it in a way that African people would understand, South Africans would understand, and it dealt with things that people do. And it was really refreshing to see that. And it was made in South Africa, set in South Africa, filmed. Everyone was South African. The jokes were South African humor, you know. So it was really refreshing to see that, and I want to see more of that.
And I think, like I keep saying, I think we're getting there, and we will see more of that. And especially with this whole Netflix, Showmax,
don't even
Amazon Prime, what are the other ones? Hulu.
All these streaming services, yeah.
Those streaming culture is sort of it's more easy to create content nowadays because you have these big producers that want to produce. Like there's a new...
Look, I mean, anyone with a cell phone can create content, right? We live in the age of having a supercomputer in our pockets. But I mean, to actually get that...
To have a platform to create, to get funding to create. Like you're getting new Showmax originals, like what Netflix does. And and Showmax is a company sort of based in Africa, not just South Africa. And so you're getting like South African creators, an outlet for them to create something and produce it and have people see it. Because, like you say, anyone can produce stuff. We can produce stuff.
Yeah, but anyone going to watch it. What did Blackadder say? It's all about bums on seats, Will, right? Which means unless somebody's watching it, I mean, yeah, it's good in that it's art, but I mean, also there has the audience is an integral part of the experience, right? All that kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so, yeah, you're right. So there is that opportunity, and it is happening. Yeah. And there are places in South Africa where, there are places, I mean, Cape Town, there's like studios all over the place, right?
They're just popping up.
Exactly, because it's growing and it's becoming bigger. Yeah, so it's a good thing because, you know, people want to be entertained. I think people, you see, this is the wonderful thing is people have a need to be entertained and they want to be entertained by something they're familiar with.
And now they're getting more opportunities to be entertained.
So maybe it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah. Was it doom and gloom to begin with?
Oh, I don't know. You changed my mind a little bit, maybe.
Well, anyway, I think we're going to stop it there.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. So, Alistair, thanks. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some new South African productions, movies and stuff. And it's been good. Thanks for the...
For the talk, for the chat.
Yeah,
thanks for listening on this first episode.
Yes, and like I said, audiences are very important. So thank you, audience. We love you. Thank you for listening. And we hope that you will keep listening in the future.
And like and share.
And get lots of other people listening as well.
Disperse it into
of course. Because we're going to have some very interesting people on. Mm-hmm. We spoke to Estelle, who is Estelle Terblanche, who is a local actor and writer.
She's going to be on our next episode.
She's on the next episode. We're going to be speaking to Emma De Bona as well, another local actor and writer who's quite accomplished. And we got a couple of interesting little topics that you and I will be bringing forward too. And it's all themed around South African theatre, film, media.
And just film in general as well.
In general, theatre. No, because that's what we love and that's what you love, audience.
Yes.
And we love you and we hopefully that you will grow to love us. Fantastic. Right. Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye. King Media Productions Centre Stage is a South African film and theatre podcast hosted by Alistair King and Daniels and Peter Bates and produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts brought to you by Blended Audio.